the artificial dimension that's been created that separates us from the depths of our connections to our past. Because a lot of the storylines that are being told today are about like space and the stars and spaceships and aliens, extraterrestrials, and the future and all this information and lack of understanding in time and space and the nature of our existence, which has already been understood by the ancient peoples like the ancient Kemites, the Mayan, the Aztecs, the Inca, the Hopi, and even further back before even Egypt, the Washita Moors, the mound builders that are in like the United States and the Louisiana time frame. There's mounds that are precision built in that space, which I would highly recommend people look into, that predate the Egyptian pyramids and that have the same precision and alignments of the Egyptian pyramids. Check out that information and use that as another layer of understanding like how far this storyline goes and the connections of the peoples go and how old this story is, because when you boil it down to energy and relationships and connection and understanding storylines and really go into seeing what's already been told, like what storylines have already been understood through these ancient like creation myths and mythologies that are already existing here, which is the reason why the university system exists in the first place, and the reason why these laws of gravity and motion and relativity get created is to separate you from your own true power. So if we get separated from our past, then we get separated from our roots that are setting the foundation for our future. We also get separated from the information that's part of us creating those roots. That's part of our soul storylines, our soul energies, our interdimensional stories that have already existed, that exist in our DNA and the very makeup of our bodies right now and our creations of today. So if we get caught up in what's so-called been going on right now, then we are in a sense lowering our true potential by thinking this is the way it is, when if we go a little bit further in understanding what has already been, we'll understand that this has already been before. This is just another version of that storyline going on. And once we tap into the facts that this stuff has already existed, then we'll be able to see that we have a lot more power and potential to go beyond, what we are told to. Like, so if I mention Trump right now and how ridiculous, that storyline is in the mainstream, but that's like the mainstream thought right now is a Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, which are all powerless states of being, of an enslaved mindset, to where we are begging people to own us, begging people to enslave your system, because that's what we've been told is our reality. That layer of consciousness is like an artificial dimension within a dimension. So if we live on the midworld, and there's an underworld and an overworld, like the upper world, so the heavens, and then the underworld, and then the midworld. We're the living bridge in between, the density space in between that. So we live there energetically. Those exist in dimensions, and that's what I wanted to talk about before. About my friend was asking about so what are the planets and what are the stars, and like when I look up there I see this. So you can see the moon, you can see the sun, you can see the stars. You can see all these images of light, and those light images have a direct connection to your genetic makeup and your personality and the way you are. So you have you are an expression of the sun, you're an expression of the moon, you're an expression of Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Jupiter, Pluto. You have those characteristics within you, and you're living and walking on the earth plane as all of these, even like nature, earth energies, water, air, fire. You have all of these energies that you are existing as. And when we walk around thinking that we are powerless and are trying to be enslaved by engaging in our energy within like the current system that is totally void of those spiritual and interdimensional connections of ourselves, then we're separating ourselves from a lot more than just what we call the ideas of freedom or what we call the ideas of knowingness or whatever. It's on a soul level, just like the sole of your baby feet gets stamped on a birth certificate, which is a catalog UPC number that is getting your slave number, your social security number, slave number. All this stuff is directly linked into your soul expression. And the artificial dimension that creates that has to go as far as disconnecting you from even the visualization of the place in which you live. So if they tell you it's a ball and you believe it for generations, you tell your kids for generations that it's a ball, then you're not only enslaving their conscious state of being, you're enslaving their subconscious state of being, which is why a lot of people don't dream anymore, because they replace it with the American dream, which is why we can't do a lot of things that we used to be able to do, is because we've been caught up in like the magic of science and the magic of gravity, making something so simple so complicated by creating the idea of gravity and the laws of motion and creating these like artificial demigods of this artificial styrofoam microwave world, like Einstein and Newton, Copernicus, and like today Neil deGrasse Tyson and the cosmos. And they're literally creating your creation myth by telling you it's a big bang and telling you that dinosaurs exist and telling you all this. They're creating your space. So this artificial dimension that gets created is not only existing on like a political Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton slave state. Bernie, if you look at all the presidents, all that stuff, they're already chosen, not to mention the fact that no one person is going to go in there and save everybody with any kind of bullshit. So these stories have existed for a long time, and outside of just the bickering between round and flat, there's an energy and a spiritual connection and understanding of these stories and the dimensional, the energetic. If we start looking at energy and dimensions instead of flat and round, then we'll be able to see more of what is and activate more of what was and what is and what will be if we go into it. So I'll read this real quick. The lowest heaven was a place where the moon traveled. This is mexalore.co.uk. The 13 heavens and 9 underworlds. The lowest heaven was a place where the moon traveled and from which the clouds were suspended. The second heaven was a place of stars which divided the two large groups, the 400 stars of the north and the 400 countless stars of the south. The heaven of the sun was the third region. Tonatiuh traveled over the heaven in his journey from the region of light to his home in the west. The fourth heaven was the place where the Venus could be seen. In the fifth heaven was the comets or smoking stars traveled. In the sixth and seventh, the celestial levels, only the colors in green and blue could be seen, according to another version, black and blue, the heavens of the day and night. The bold eighth heaven was apparently the place of storms, and 3 heavens above this, white, yellow, and red, were reserved as dwelling places for the gods. Most important of the 13 levels were the last 2, which constituted Omeyokan, the dwelling place of the dual supreme deity, generator, and founder of the universe. So those 2 beings in the story that you were seeing in the video, that was the 2 creators of the supreme deity, the duality creator system that started, which is your expression, your duality expression, are on one level, living within the earth plane of it, so in a dimension to where you are aware of Venus, you are aware of the sun, you are aware of the moon, you are aware of nature, spirits, dimensions, and you are aware of the underworld. And another example of how like downgrading of people with like the television and basic understandings like the science system and scientific system and cheap magic and artificial styrofoam microwave realities kind of downgrade us into like the animalistic expressions of ourselves when we're really divine beings. And you can control people when that happens like that and separate them from everything. You're voting for a slave master on one level. On another level, you are voting as a powerless soul, a powerless spirit who needs to be controlled. And the only reason why we go into letting that happen is because we've been in a hopeless state of being for so long, and we don't know like where to go or what to do if we let go of the system that has been created for us based upon artificial laws like gravity, the creation myth of dinosaurs and the Big Bang. You got the underworld and the midworld, the pyramid, sun and the moon, the upper world, and all the other stars. And all these stories already exist, and we're told they don't exist anymore. We're told they're not important. We're told that these people are savages and don't know what was going on, and you're told that it's all about like sacrifice, cutting off heads and rolling that down the pyramid, all that stuff. That's what Hollywood wants to tell you, so you can ball that stuff up into the Christopher Columbus state of mind of savagery and believe the university system of being the most evolved beings and creatures. So if we're not activating that energy, then we are actually less evolved than even the idea of the savages that they were talking about, because the true savages were the colonists that came and destroyed and sickened everybody and installed war and separation, the glorification of that all into the system as the norm